In order to obtain an accurate diagram, it is not enough to rely entirely on dimensioning. To compare and contrast these ideas, we're going to look at the idea of dimensioning this particular quadrilateral over this side only using dimensions, and we're going to make it 30mm square that lines up perfectly with this red line here. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use the constraints tool, which is over here on the left, to compare and contrast the difference in the workflow and to see which one is preferable and better. So basically I'm going to go over here and press the D key and make my square 30mm. So basically starting by pressing the D key, bringing that dimension out there, you can see that that's got to be 30mm. Dimension again, this one here, 30mm. Dimensioning again here, once again 30mm, and dimensioning again here is going to be once again 30mm, and you can see it's not quite square yet, so we're going to have to dimension between here and make that exactly 90 degrees. That is now a square. We're now going to have the fun of trying to line that up, and the only way I can think of to line that up is to draw a line which is locked onto this line here. So I'm going to start from this point here and come along here. I'm going to then use the trick. I'll press the tick button up here to turn that off. I'm going to use the trick of pressing the select button and selecting that line and turning it into a construction line, so it's only useful for construction. I'm now going to basically create a dimension here between this line here and this line here. This line here and that line there, and set that to 90 degrees, and you can see there that I've lined that up nicely. Now if I wanted to make this exactly 30 down, I would have to go from here, so dimension from this point here to this point here is also going to be 30. So you can see I had to do a lot of things to get that to line up like that. There's a lot of dimensioning that has to happen there. Let's see what happens when I use the idea of constraints. So I'd use my constraints before I use this, and you can see here that I can set these two here to be perpendicular. So I can use the perpendicular one here to make this one here and this one here perpendicular. I'll also make this one here and this one here perpendicular. I've still got that tool selected even though you can't see it. And this one here and this one here perpendicular, and you'll realize if you try and do this one here and this one here, it will tell you an error because you don't need that one to be perpendicular. We know that if those three are perpendicular, then this one is also going to be perpendicular. I could also make them equal, so I can use the equal button here and make this one here and this one here equal. And if I try and do this one here and this one here, you'll see that it's over constrained, because if you've got a square that two sides are equal and all the other sides are perpendicular, so then they'll all be quite the same. If I want to make them then parallel, I can make this line here and this line here parallel, this construction line that I used before. And you can see there that I've already got my square mostly in shape. I can also make them collinear by going this line here and this point here, line here. Now they're now collinear. You can see that changed the size. I can still do the size. The size is not set yet. So all I need to now do is dimension one side, and I can make that 30 exactly. If I dimension another side, you'll realize that I don't have to because it's over constrained. So that's a data-driven constraint. You can see there that that was a lot quicker, and I only have one setting to change to make that perfectly square. You can see I've got all these little icons all over here. I can turn those on and off by going on the Show Constraints section over here, and those constraints mean that this is going to be stuck in place. If I try and move this now, so I'm going to press the Move key here and move the object, double click on this guy here, you'll see that I can't move it really well in the up and down. If I do, I'll move everything else that's reliant on it, but I can move it in the left and right, and it doesn't move everything else that relies on it. So you can see there that that's handy, that these two shapes are now bound together by these use of constraints.